Joining me now is Congressman Ted Lieu, Democrat of California, who served as an impeachment manager during the hearings for former President Donald Trump. Congressman, what's your biggest takeaway from these new charges brought against Donald Trump? What is new about this investigation?
Thank you, Reverend Sharpton, for your question. As a criminal defendant, Donald Trump is entitled to the presumption of innocence like any other criminal defendant. But these new charges are serious. He is being charged with trying to destroy security camera footage. As a former prosecutor, I can tell you that is what's called consciousness of guilt. You don't try to destroy security camera footage if you don't think what you did was wrong. And this is going to be powerful evidence to a jury. In addition, there was a new charge brought against Carlos de Oliveira. He was the property manager at Mar-a-Lago, who was charged with being part of this conspiracy to move boxes around to hide information from federal prosecutors and also to try to destroy the security camera footage.
Now, Congressman, NBC has learned that Donald Trump's lawyers have been told by the special counsel to expect an indictment in connection with the 2020 election interference investigation. What types of charges do you think the former president could face?
As a impeachment manager for the second impeachment, by the way, I still think it's pretty funny we have to identify which impeachment because he was just that bad.
Well, let me let me put it this way. Do you feel that Special Counsel Jack Smith is vindicating your work and your colleagues' work on the committee that investigated January 6th?
I do. We got a bipartisan group of 57 senators to say that Donald Trump incited insurrection. We also knew there was this fake elector scheme at the time. We didn't have enough time to really go in depth and investigate that scheme. Jack Smith apparently has, and I think that's going to be one of the major charges because you cannot try to stay in office illegally by engaging in a scheme to submit fake electors to keep you in office. I think that's going to be one of the major charges.
Do you worry that Donald Trump's trial in the classified documents case may be pushed to after the 2024 election because of this superseding indictment?
I would like Donald Trump treated just like any other criminal defendant. If, however, Judge Cannon were to put the trial after the presidential election, you're going to see a blue wave the size of which no one's ever seen before. It will dwarf the blue wave of 2018. If the presidential election becomes a referendum on whether Donald Trump faces trial, you're going to have an overwhelming number of Americans show up to say, yes, he needs to face trial.
Here's what Donald Trump said last night in Iowa about next year's election.
And despite 4 years of deranged opposition, we did even better the second time than we did the first time, getting more votes in 2020 than any sitting president in the history of the United States. They rigged the presidential election in 2020. We're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election of 2024. They used COVID to cheat.
How concerned are you if Trump escalates his attacks against the Department of Justice and other prosecutors, and how Trump will react is the Republicans' nominee and loses in 2024? How concerned are you about that?
We should be concerned that people will follow what Donald Trump says and engage in political violence again. I do think that's going to be mitigated because all the people that engage in violence on January 6th when they attacked the Capitol, they're being prosecuted. They're going to jail. They're going to prison. And I think the American people understand you cannot engage in political violence. The way we solve disputes in America is at the ballot box.
Now, we see Trump touring the country. And I wonder your thoughts about the fact that he is still unrestrained, unapologetic, unremorseful, and fully supported by his Republican Party.
I think that says more about MAGA Republicans than it does about Donald Trump. At the same time, what you see is really good news for Joe Biden. You've seen that under his Bidenomics, GDP growth hit 2.4% last quarter, blowing past economists' estimates. We're now at the lowest unemployment in 50 years, and consumer confidence is at a 2-year high. Inflation has also dropped for the 12th consecutive month.
Talking about Bidenomics, we've received several pieces of good economic news this month. Economic news that polls show, though, that voters trusting Republicans more than Democrats when it comes to handling the economy. Why is this issue a liability for Democrats and President Biden? Why are people not feeling this good economic news?
I think the inflation spike at the end of the pandemic really caused a lot of hardship for the American people, and that's why Democrats worked hard to lower costs. We capped insulin at $35 for seniors. Now we're trying to cap it for everyone. And under Bidenomics and the laws we passed, we have now brought inflation down to a lower 3%. Growth is also the highest of any G7 country. And I think as you see these policies start to work, you see more and more people really doing better and seeing that their wages are rising faster than inflation.
All right. Thank you for being with us, Congressman Ted Lieu.